Okay, this is going to be a shorter video, but I feel like I got to point a couple things out. I'm going to make it as quick as I can. Okay, what the left does is they co-opt everything on the right. Okay, they know they can't make any inroads based on their debate or their philosophy, and they don't have facts to back up their case. So what they have done is they've infiltrated the conservatives and the conservative pundits. I mean, we suddenly have, and some of the people on the right that are pundits are kind of unaware. Like they haven't been political. They're not grounded in the Bible, so they don't understand prophecy and how they relate. They don't understand anything about Israel. And so anti-Semitism has starting to get a stronghold in the right with people like Candace Owens and Mark Dice and people like that. It's subtly getting in there. But then you've got people who are very conservative, and then somebody gets to them and they spike something that's very important. I'm talking about people like Mark Levin. Don't ever trust him. As much as I used to love Glenn Beck, I never forgot when Glenn Beck said that, basically compared Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler, but he gets enough newer viewers that they don't know about the background. So as much as I like him, you can't trust him. And they're doing the same thing with all these conspiracies coming out on what was basically has all the earmarks of a very emotional type shooting. If you watch my video on why it was not a professional hit, that still stands. The fact that there's a big money trail, that does not make it a professional hit. All that is like your typical George Soros throwing money at the dregs of society that he's using as useful idiots. It's one of those things that it had to happen sooner or later. It didn't need professional coordination as far as that so-called hitman level. And be careful with these conspiracy theories. And remember that AI can recreate anything. People will say, well, that's not AI because it's all grainy. It's like, if AI can make stuff that looks so realistic that it fools you, don't you think that they can probably create stuff that looks grainy, that looks just like a cell phone? They're far beyond that. But more so, I think a lot of what we're seeing is not AI. What it is they see a reaction. Let's put it this way. They see a guy who was obviously probably in Charlie Kirk's circle because he was standing on the stage facing forward. All right. Oh my God. I don't even know where to begin with this. It's so dumb. Okay, if it was that sophisticated, don't you think they know that there are thousands of lenses pointed right at them, and they're going to be like, which means shoot now? They're asking that question. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. I actually saw a site where they compared it and said military signals, this is that, and this means this, and it's like, no. No, I have friends that were like airborne in the Army. I mean, it's like, they would laugh their heads off about this. It's like you go out in the battlefield and you're like, all right, man. That's stupid, okay? And if you don't believe me, consider this. Go and look through any speaking engagement that shows a lot of people in the background, okay? And count how many times you will see somebody go like, and laugh, right? You got to have a crowd of people, right? I personally, when I'm wearing a ball cap, I'm always going like this. I'm always adjusting. When I'm wearing a beanie like this, I'm always adjusting. And if the timing is right, go through and look at those, and then imagine that a violent event happened right at that spot, and then look at all the people, freeze frame it, and look, and you're going to find a bunch of people that are going to be like, because people are scratching, they're doing all kinds of stuff. If it turns out that he's in on it, okay, I can be wrong, but that's a really flimsy way to go about that excuse. Now, a 30-06 is an extremely powerful bullet. I have been shooting a 30-06 all my life since I was a kid, and I still own my dad's 30-06 and have shot it a million times. It is an explosive round. It's very loud. It's like the world's coming apart. When you're hunting up in North Idaho, from a mile away, you can hear a 30-06 or a 30 caliber, large caliber hunting rifle go off, and it is a very low, boomy pow. I mean, it's extremely, And the point that I'm making is it's very high velocity with a ton of punch. I mean, it will bring an elk down. It's designed to be very powerful. And, you know, if a 30-06 hits you, and plus he has a bulletproof vest, which 30-06 can penetrate flimsier body armor. But I'm telling you, when it hits that hard, and people try to make a big deal because something flies off this way, and they're even trying to make a deal about, what's this thing over here? Well, it's a mic. People in the media at these events, they're double and usually like triple mic'd, okay? So that when they're doing this, you know, you've ever noticed when they talk into the microphone and they go like this, and they say something, you can still hear them pretty good. There's a reason for that. Also, when you have duplicity, when you have redundancy in the microphones, particularly if they're on different frequencies or they are bypassed into different circuitry into the sound system. That way, if one source cuts out, you always have, because you can't have an event where you're totally reliant on just one receptive source, like a microphone. They actually showed a guy off to the side that was hanging onto a railing, and he goes like this, and it's like, he shot Charlie Kirk. Right there. I mean, God, the poor guy is just standing there. And then he smiles. I mean, it's like the impact is so immediate that you can't measure what people do within a split second right afterwards. Some people duck. Some people are just kind of caught dumbfounded. All right. That doesn't include the guy that stood up and looked around backwards and cheered. He's definitely had knowledge. His excuses were pathetic. He said he was Army trained or something, and he said, I just did what I was trained to do. So apparently in the Army, what they train you to do is when you come under fire, is to stand up and look around. Okay, so he's lying about that. And then he said he thought it was fireworks. And that's why I talked about the sound of the 30-06. It doesn't sound like a firework. It sounds, and the thing is the recordings cannot recreate the range of the report of that weapon. In other words, it is a very boomy, explosive sound that it just, there's no way, you know. And you just look at the interview with this redheaded guy, you know, he knew something, and now we know a lot of people knew it. And it was handled really sloppy. And there is a money trail back. There is a money trail back. They don't have to orchestrate what they do. It's just like Antifa with George Soros. He doesn't have to orchestrate what they do. They do deliver pallets of bricks so they can destroy a city, but that's not professional. In other words, the fact that there's funding that leads to this does not make it a professional hit. It still was not a professional hit for all the reasons that I mentioned in my video before, that I'm not going to go through again. Because when I use my phone for video, for one thing, I can't send it to put on my laptop because it ends up being too big of a file. But just to clear that up, you know, take with a huge grain of salt all these videos that are coming out. It's amazing. And not only that, most of them conflict with each other. But people are looking at them going, oh, there's something more to this. And I was like, okay, they all conflict. And you've got one of the highest power rounds you can imagine hitting a guy, you know. There's literally windage. There's wind that comes with a bullet hitting like that. It's like, so when you see things jump around, I wish people would think and just ignore the experts, the so-called experts on the news, because so many of them, they're told what to say. And, you know, you have an expert marksman, former SEAL or whatever, and it's not even a red flag if they want to say it's professional, that they're going to use a sport rifle that's a 30-06 that you can't tear down. And they don't, professional assassins don't use 30-06s. They don't use that round. That's just the tip of the iceberg. So anyway, I highly recommend you look at my video on why it was not a professional hit. And anyway, I just wanted to clear some of that stuff up.